and welcome to Impact 2024. Our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of topics. Before we start, I'd like to remind people of the other offerings that we have here at Amani. And the first one is, of course, we have Thursday Thirst. That's the one I always go to first if you've been here before. That's Thursday Thirst, our weekly Bible study. And that is an opportunity to study the Bible. Please join us here on Facebook, YouTube. Check in on the website. However you're watching us now, watch us the same way. On Sundays, we have worship service at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Facebook, YouTube as well. And on Tuesdays today, we pray. Well, we have prayer at 7 o'clock. Between 7 and 7:45, you can be praying with the organization, all of us here at Amani. And of course, you're here now for Impact. So please feel free to join us for all of those offerings. Yeah. All right. As a quick reminder, before we go into our topics, please feel free to type your questions and your comments into the comments section. All right. So you can participate in the process. This is not just a talking, this is a conversation. So if you have anything that you want to say, please feel free to type that in, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. It comes up in the chat, and then we will address those questions. It is the end of the year, December. The year has gone by. It's 2024. A lot of different things have happened this year, of course. Big election year. So, of course, they're campaigning at the beginning of the year. Now we have a new president-elect that's coming in. That's coming into office. A lot of things have changed. AI has really exploded this year. We're closer than ever to having self-driving cars. That makes you feel safe. It makes you feel good. Some things have changed. Prices are still high. Inflation is, still what it is. It's hard for real estate. Prices are still high. It's hard for people to buy their first homes and things such as that. Still a conflict in Ukraine, still a conflict in Israel, still conflicts all through Africa. Necessarily don't talk about. So a lot of things happened, a lot of things changed, a lot of things did not change. And this is that time of year where people start to reflect on what's happened all year, and then they're going to go into thinking of their New Year's resolutions, where they try to figure out what they're going to do for the next year. And so that's the time of year that we are. It's that time of year where people start to assess what they've done and assess put together and start planning, well, what's going on with my future. And unfortunately, this is a significant term. Unfortunately, some people don't have to think about what's going on with their future because they're no longer with us. And why? For many of the people throughout this year in 2024, they're no longer with us because of gun violence. And one of the things that we've talked about over the time that we've been here is we don't know. Recently, we had another mass shooting, another school shooting this week. A young lady came in and committed a lot of all places. And so, as we look at what we've done, we look at our year, and we look at going forward. I think one of the things that we need to evaluate and kind of look at is those who are not coming forward with us, those we lost. Not those that we lost because of old age or because of sickness, but those that we've lost due to violence, specifically gun violence. And when we're looking at our resolutions and we're looking at what we're going to do towards the future, what are we going to do towards that? What are we going to do to make a difference towards that? What is our plan? Now, well, you don't have a group of people who are motivated to change anything when it comes to gun laws. So that's pretty much for the next 4 years or even longer. That's pretty much off the table. You have a group who are pretty much gun advocates all across the board. So then the onus becomes on us, the community, to make decisions about what we're going to do to encourage people not to go down the route of gun violence. And how do we address all the industrial countries, all the major countries has the most mass shootings? So what are we going to do to be able to solve this issue? Because it won't be solved by leaders. Or not solve the issue, just make the issue better. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if there is a solution. But what can we do? Because we can't count on leaders, political leaders, government leaders, whatever kind of officials that you want to talk about, the gun manufacturers, business. You can't count on any of those type of organizations to do anything. So then it comes on to us, different citizens, people of faith. What are our activities? What are we going to do to combat, gun violence? What are we going to do to combat situations where kids are going into schools and are calling here? We've had mass shootings all during the year. And so what are we going to do differently in 2020 when it comes to trying to figure out how do we get in touch with our kids and encourage them to do differently? How do we make sure that the kids that we have that we know are not a part of the gun violence culture, how do we encourage them to be safe or safer? Like, what is our process for what we're going to do? It's crazy. You hear all these people talking about the difference between now and the difference between earlier in the year or what next year is going to talk about. And I rarely hear anybody talk about safety and gun violence and things such as that. We just had gun violence. And of course, that's not one of the things that they're talking about. They're not talking about the fact that the CEO was gunned down. They're talking about the fact that he was killed, but no relationship to gun violence. And so what are we going to do? What are our answers? Or are we going to do anything? Are we just going to sit back and say, as the common goal is, guns don't kill people, people kill people. That's what folk always say. And it's true. People use those guns. But what are we teaching about gun violence? What are we teaching about? We've talked about a bunch of different topics all up and down over the course of this year. And it always comes down for me to one thing. Well, two things. The first one is greed, of course, that we talk about. And then the second one is loving our neighbor, loving our community, loving one another. And so those are the two things I think that really need to be knocked out in order for us to really address gun violence with our kids. I mean, the loving one another, for being as the first one, loving one another is what we truly need to do. If you love your neighbor, you're not going out here and trying to do mass shootings. And so that's the first and foremost. The second one is related, and that's greed. Greed and selfishness kind of working. And I think that really goes into the gun violence situation, because a lot of times it's because all you're thinking about is your situation and what you're doing. You're later focusing on yourself and yourself, whether it be financially, whether it be socially, whatever it is. You need to have everything. I'd say more so greed, but selfishness and being on yourself. It's hard to do that if you're loving. And so, as I think, as a church especially, we need to make sure we're talking to kids and we love and continue to teach the opposite of greed, the opposite of selfishness, because we are getting more and more selfish and more greedy as we go forward. I tend to think we need to make sure that we start really talking even more of violence. And one of the reasons I say that is because I think that people realize, especially here in the United States, that your situation, the situation is the situation when it comes to leadership and answers. And so if you're not a person of faith and you don't have a higher authority to go to, and you look at your leaders, whether it be leaders of companies, whether it be leaders of your state or your city or whatever, and you look to them and you say, well, a lot of times feel like I need to make change through violence. We don't know why. We're talking about the CEO of United Health who was shot and gunned down in the middle of the street in New York. We don't know exactly why the young man who shot him did it. But when people are trying to put things together and they're realizing that, when people are trying to put that together, they're realizing, they're saying, well, maybe it was because, he wanted to make a change. He didn't feel like he had any other options. Like the CEOs and the medical companies aren't listening. And so taking it upon themselves to do violence, gun violence, taking it upon themselves to take someone out, to cause change. And I think that's unfortunately, that's maybe a place where we're going. When people lose hope and lose a sense of an ability to do anything. When you see that you have no control over the situation, sometimes people then turn to violence. And I think as a church, I think people are favored to combat against that. As a reminder, if anybody has any questions or any comments to put in there, because I don't know what other people think the answer is when it comes to gun violence, or even if some people don't even really think it's a problem. They don't see it. It's not so much unless it touches them and it's in their community. They don't care. Here, if you're local here in Virginia, just recently there's been a lot of shootouts, a lot of gun violence just recently in the local area. I don't know if it upticks towards the end of the year or what, but it's gotten crazy around here. And people aren't talking about it. People are not focusing in on gun violence and on again the stock market is going up or going down, or when people are talking about the price of groceries and cars and houses and homes and all that kind of, and the lives of young people is just as important. And that should be a topic that I think should continue to be on our minds and our lips. And unfortunately, that it's been pushed way back. And so many major gun violence activities or incidents, and we don't even remember them anymore. They don't even come to our mind because it happens with such regularity. And it's shocking. It's crazy. It's absolutely shocking, and it's absolutely crazy. Unless it's something that is a massive event, or unless it's something that's a massive event or just something out of the norm. Like again, a CEO, somebody who you think has money and power, they normally don't. Those normally are the people who get shot. So unless it's something like that, we don't even pay attention to it anymore because it happens all the time. And unfortunately, that is not a good place, I think, for us to go as a society, as a country, and again, as people of faith and people of God. I think we need to focus in on what's important. And so we can't get caught up in it where we're just focusing in on the economy, because that's all people want to talk about. We can't even get caught up in it where we're just focusing in on money and prices and the things that I guess we see on TV or we read on the internet, we get on our social media pages. Don't get caught when we're focusing in on all the greed, all the selfishness, all the things that benefit us. And we need to get back and focusing in on other people. And the things that are affecting other people is violence, gun violence. People are being harmed and hurt out here in the streets. All right. Well, that was it. You know, as we go into the end of the year, I just wanted to make sure that we focus in on some of the things that are important. Because again, we've been talking all year about money and politics and you know, and other different little things. But I think that one of the important things again is the health of our kids and reminding people to love one another and to get rid of some of this greed, which is both of those situations, lack thereof, leading to violence, I think. All right. Well, as a reminder, I will remind everybody again about weekly Bible study Thursday, 7 o'clock, worship service 10 o'clock on Sundays, and prayer on Tuesdays. And as always, Impact 2024. This will be the last one of the year. We won't have it next week because that will be Christmas Eve. And so hopefully people will have an opportunity to be with their families and friends. Well, we do have a comment slipped in. Let's see. Given the state of the Christian church, can it really make a difference? Is the church relevant anymore? Absolutely. I think that the first part of it is the Christian church. So if it's the Christian church, people who actually, want to follow Christ, if it's the church that of people who want to follow Christ, then yes, I think we still have of power because we're still in the community. And so if you're talking about Christianity as a whole, and you're talking about all these other forms of Christianity and other churches, no, I don't think that they're going to have the impact, and that they don't want to. But us, the Christian church, those of us again who are following the Word of God, I do think we have an impact because we have been in the community the whole time, and we just need to remind ourselves of the job that we need to do in being in the community, touching the community. And so, I think it's really simple for us. We just have to remind people about loving one another, because others will always remind you about loving God and loving yourself. But we need to remind people about loving one another, and loving one another does not necessarily it does not lead to violence. You got to give people opportunities, give people grace, give people forgiveness. You want to be forgiven. You want to have grace. You can't just, go down that dark path of anger so much that it leads to that type of violence. And so, I think we can make a huge impact as long as we just stay in the community and keep focusing in on the message and understand that we slip into it too. I mean, all of us, it's so easy to just slip into a moment where we're talking about where the main topics is just money, politics, greed, and that's just a bad place where we need to be. We need to be talking about the things I think that affect people in our community. And they're like, well, keep talking about people being able to live and do things like that. Yes, but we also need to be talking about loving one another because that solves a lot of those issues. And so, as the Christian church, as long as we stay in the community and stay talking to people in the community, I think that's we will still have the difference making ability and the relevance. But we got to stay in the community. We can't stay, separate. We can't stay in the church. We can't only talk to ourselves. Another comment: not Christian nationalism. The Christian church can influence society. Exactly. Not these different other groups. So it's a lot of them now, I think. They're out here. I don't know exactly what they're doing. They're doing different things, but they're not doing what the Christian church is doing. And, all of these other organizations of Christianity who have prefixes or suffixes don't know what they're doing. But the Christians in the Christian church, yes, I think we still can influence society. Great comment. I think great comment. And that may be what's going forward of what we really need to do. I've talked about it, but we just really need to let people know who we are as Christians. Let's reclaim our identity. And then do it through love. All right. That was good. All right. Well, I'd like to thank all the comments and everything that came in. I'd like to thank everyone who's been with us at any point in time this year, or or all through the year. This has been good. Hopefully next year will be bigger, better, and brighter. Have a lot more guests. We've gone a little dry spell of guests. So if anybody wants to be a guest or has an opportunity that they has some free time and want to be on the show and give your comments or your opinions, please feel free to contact. And you can definitely come on. Let's have this continuing conversation. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a good one.